Brilliant, genius, magnificent, great, absolute art, raspberry reigning. Originally this game was called Silence of the Siren, which is a way better name, and that's why we had to change it. Someone already registered it. At least that's my theory why we changed it to a stupid suck-up name like Heroes of Science and Fiction, without releasing a Don Crowley Science and Fiction, the facials ID of the central server first.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. I'm on a horse.
Heroes of Science and Fiction is a Heroes clone, and specifically a Heroes 3 clone. It's not just in the same genre like Disciples, Age of Wonders, Songs of Conquest, Eador and Malgrimia, but a direct take on the very specific formula. Still, even so, it is braver than Heroes 5 and isn't stuck in home 3 ways. They weren't afraid to tone down its tiresome obsession with logistics a bit, and summon the wrath of haters of Heroes 6 and 7.
6, 7.
Every city can build a metro station, tying all of your cities together, transporting your troops for a fee. So you can transport your troops for a fee. You cannot get troops directly into your hero's army, but once you reach a city, you can gather all your new units from all the cities. The global map is much more complex, but still manageable. You can upgrade and fortify your mines, you can erect supplemental buildings in special spots, or one time sow some resources to reap them later. You can very slowly train by standing in one place, or practicing mock battles in the special buildings. The native flora doesn't like you being there, so you can get attacked by carnivore plants or spored by berserker mushrooms. The annoying overworld spawners are collapsed into one annoying casino spawner. They are split between the factions, and each can spawn once per week any unit from its faction randomly. It can be upgraded or unupgraded. There are thrall markets which sell upgraded and unupgraded units randomly selected from the entire roster of the game, and you can attack them to get rerolled units for free. You can bust open many of the weekly visitable unownable places, which makes them restock every about 12 days compared to every 7 in Heroes. But not all of the unownable buildings support such functionality. Some, the most important ones, you have to visit every about 4 days. With the number of cool additions, we could have added a button to outright buy the replenishable spots for a lot of cash, but removing the need to visit them anymore, or even add cards for them to haul stuff to your bases, which can be intercepted by the enemies if you want to make it not so simple. The weeks are split into days, in some of which the locals are more dangerous. Different planets have different week lengths, though the standard 4-day week results in a very fast escalation and somewhat strained logistics. It's not helped by the game following the current fashion of limiting your heroes number in the campaign to 2 or 3. The game has 5 factions and they are decently diverse. Each faction has its own special buildings. Bugs are fully mechanical, so they do not work with the biospells. Meanwhile, locals are fully organic and cannot be repaired. But the best part of the factions is the aesthetics. You have the commie racist space moles, the religious robot bugs, the natives are parasites who take the local fauna and all the colonizers as their hosts. Even the default humans have giant moths in management positions. The city screens are decently pretty and reflect the style of their civilization. The paid inner city public transport works between all the cities instead of being limited to Inferno. You can have as many capitals as you have cities, but to reach your capital, you have to build every single building, including every useless one. The major guild is not separated into tiers, but into schools, and you can upgrade it with a remote learning room. Another room adds an ability to directly buy a spell you didn't roll. The castle upgrades are tunable. Instead of just adding turrets, the upgrades add HP to the walls and the protected spots, and you can pick 2 out of 4 upgrades. But I think the mines and the surprise turrets are overtuned. They just end enemy's turn, not letting enemy melee units even to come near for multiple full rounds. It's way better than 2 weak machine guns or stronger walls. The best part of the game is of course the units. Almost every single one of them does something. Instead of being just classified as cavalry or flying cavalry, archers and melee wallflowers, the units have AoE attacks, there are short-range archers, many flamethrowers with short-range AoE attack, delayed archers, artillery which shoots the field instead of the units, so I need to calculate the correct spot. Almost every upgraded unit receives an active ability. Like a half of melee units receive a ranged grenade of sorts with a very long cooldown. You are limited to only one mechanism, and every faction has its own. The most interesting ones are probably the one that denies melee units entry and the one that protects from projectiles. There's no defend button, so if you skip your turn, you skip it. The battles range from no-loss puzzles to absolute meat grinders. In the middle of my playthrough, which I started at the release date, they patched in virtually mandatory quick battles with no downsides, and I am super turned on that. On the one hand, it introduces the number of repetitive tactical fights you will win without even looking. On the other hand, this genre is about tactical tactical fights. It doesn't take its roots in civilization, it takes its root in King's Bounty, an RPG-like game. In Heroes you have to take an educated guess if you will or if you won't lose your units on a mundane mob. This game was already super accommodating with the instant retry button, and now you don't even have to guess. It already tells you the result of the battle before you even had the chance to think about it. The hero's primary skills are simplified, and the end result doesn't feel any worse. Instead of 4 original primary stats, you have 2. Attack and defense are combined into combat prowess, and magic stats into magic prowess. Plus, there's a new dedicated logistics stat, which boosts the marching speed per day. The primary stats are all limited to 30 each. The secondary skills range from generic basics to overcomplicated ones. Some look useless AF, some are basically mandatory. Like, by default your artifact slots are very limited, so you'd want to pick the skill that unlocks the rest of the slots. Tactics is as strong as tactics. Unique faction skills are usually very strong too. Globetrotter allows to use logistics spells, which include Town Portal and the exchange of a bit of mana for some more movement points, which feels pretty useful. Yet at the same time, there are skills which are worse than Eagle Eye. But Tunic build is eased with the global map buildings that allow you to unlearn something, and buildings that let you pick a new skill from the list. So even a high level hero can still be fixed, unlike with alcoholic who was just released from a prison, yet somehow is the most popular fixer-upper with the young females crowd. So you are not stuck with a choice between Eagle Eye and navigation in a landlocked desert. But there are no complex per hero skill trees from Heroes 5, and the total number of skills is pretty low. Though, while the Heroes 4 and 5 hero tech trees are fun, they are also a bit too complex, unintuitive and confusing. After the might, I mean the science, we have the magic, I mean the fiction. And the fiction is split into tech, which is mostly concerned with the direct damage spells and mechanical units, bioresearch, which is more about buffs, debuffs and biological units, and psycho, which is only about word buffs, debuffs and can assume direct control. The last school of magic is the spells used on the global map. Those are focused on movement, logistics and PvP counter-espionage. The magic system is a bit unintuitive. Might heroes do not have to invest into low-level spells of haste, curse and bless anymore. If you do not build a dedicated wizard, the spells are borderline useless. And the magic build is not even as involved as in Home 3. Picking the magic school is basically enough. No need to bother with wisdom, expertise and mana regeneration. You only need to invest hard into the hero's magic skill, which makes even the direct attack spells become strong enough for late mid-game and early late game, where Armageddon doesn't even hurt your own units. But for the biggest fights, you go back to boosting your own numerous units, like using the reloader of the unit special ability on a Cyberbugs ultimate unit during the first turn. The artifacts rarely offer the standard minor stat boosting. Imagine, you go to the market and buy a pretty flower. Oh no, you've been scammed. This is not a flower. This is an invasive, unstoppable plant. It grows and grows and grows in your inventory. During the battle it starts spreading its seed every turn. Every single turn the enemy tries to shoot it, but oh no, your hero is a biologist who can cast regeneration on the mother plant. You are unstoppable with your army of invasive plants, which doomed us all in the long run. Was that price too low to pay? You have a choice between many items which add more movement points. You have generators of the primary stats. Your hero reaches the cap, passes it around. There's an item which generates random resources every n steps you take. There are some borderline useless items, but you can always wait for a vendor in market to sell them for hard cash. Besides the normal artifacts, there are consumables. The typical temporary stat boosters, the gas with which to cook to restore movement points, Kinet XP, skills and spells, and a foundation which you can drop to construct supplementary buildings. At the first glance the game looks sufficiently good, but not too good. Yet after a very short acclimatization it does actually start to look kinda good, despite the weird animations. Anyway, it's all real graphics. No fake pixel slope here, only real modern sprites. The GUI takes longer to get used to. It's minimalist and sometimes too minimalist, having very tiny buttons, or not matching the visual with the functionality. But when you learn it, it offers extreme convenience, especially for one-handed play, and offers a good depth. The movement speed, though, is still too low at maximum animation speed. The game has no intro cutscene, there is no exposition, nothing. The setting still isn't explained much by the end of the game. You are thrown into action and have to orient yourself on the fly. But whatever glimpses of this universe there are absolutely brilliant. The story is split into 4 campaigns, 4 missions each. It starts with the tanky dictatorship, penal battalion, racist malls, and that's a hell of a hook, especially with how malls have the best music. The writing is not perfect, some relationships and events are very obviously rushed. Some characters do not exactly talk according to what they are, but the overall story is peak. Everyone is a space asshole here, no matter which of the 4 archetype plots you play. Every character thinks themselves an underdog and a savior, but then when you meet them as the other characters, they are the same assholes as basically everyone here. The character heroes don't carry all things over in the campaigns to the next mission. There also was something funky with the heroes level and primary stats on the release, but maybe it's now fixed. The artifacts are taken away. Yeah, balancing the game is harder when being lazy and replacing RPG mechanics with play pretend, but all these carry-over limits make playing the game basically pointless. The moment you hit level cap, there is no reason to do any battles or to explore the map. Just let them all flee and rush the objectives. If the artifacts are not transferred, why waste time vacuuming the map? Just finish it already. Songs were barely giving you heroes, and here they are entirely dictated by the story. Most of the time you are limited to 2 or 3 same heroes, and if you can't build the capital in the current map, might as well never build the tavern. There's a hot seat with yourself in the second campaign. The third campaign has multiple timed missions, meaning the moment you get the timer, the rest of the map ceases to exist. Instead of playing the game, you just need to rush the objective, ignoring everything. Well, but also is nothing transferred to the next map, so who cares? The scrap hero comes with scrap units each time, instead of the usual faction selection. It's a gameplay malus for early game, but it's good storytelling. In the last campaign, the writing is a bit too irreverent. Some of it, like the robot and the elder bug, is explained by the 2 of them being influenced by space hobos in the previous campaign. But that just makes it 2 space hobo tone written campaigns in a row. And the final campaign is what leaves the aftertaste in your mouth. You get your level capped hero from the previous campaign, but it's not really it. It's a giant bug werewolf. It is predetermined instead of transferred, and it comes with a pretty weak build at low stats. The ending works. Story-wise, it is mostly supported by the last map, but it is a problem content-wise. It's the typical "we won" for now ending, but we still didn't have a 5th Civ campaign or explanation of the setting. And now, as everyone is supposed to be united, while having no choice but to submit to a solo dictator, there cannot be factional conflict between the existing factions anymore. The prequel story is still doable, though. I'd like to see how the locals fight the ways of different colonizers. Besides the campaign, there are scenarios, which are also used as maps for skirmish, but, like, who cares about scenarios? I don't remember beating a single one across all the games in the genre, especially considering it'll take like 200 more hours to beat them all. The game has enough of minor or not bugs, but the team is actively working on them, responding pretty fast to bug reports. For example, there was something wrong with the difficulty calculation. I've entered the gambling arena and it says the difficulty is low, then fills 3 times my units, after which the second moderate round is my 150 T7 units versus AI's 500 T7 units. So basically anyone will chalk it up to a bug, and Civis is unwinnable. But the game offers a bigger mechanical depth than that. I used the transmutation spell to turn all my last tier's melee units into a mass of archers with AoE skill. Then at high, the 3rd level is not even impossible. It's 1700 tier 7 units. And for impossible, I converted all my high-end units into a mass of low-level trash, but which ignores retaliation.
Roll out, Enforcer!
So I bullied the 1700 tier 7 units by my high morale.
From now on, you are on your own, Enforcer.
I reported that bug, and the arena was basically removed from the game, and the skin reused for an entirely different arena building. Now it's a mock battle with wagers against the strongest enemy hero. Heroes of Science and Fiction is not a game of the year. This is the game of the decade.